is Way Up with Angela Yee, and I mean way up, like up really, really high. And we have the founders of On the Revel. We have Lulu Sway here, and we have Jacoby Holland. Thank you guys for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Super excited to be here with you, Angela.
Well, listen, so am I. And I just want to get into this like right away because I'm going to be joining you this weekend. And this On the Revel, this Revelry event is a huge deal. And this is all about cannabis, business to business operations. This is a great way for people to connect. But people who also are, this is a very inclusive event as well.
Always.
Right?
Yep.
So let's talk about this. Started 8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
2016.
Yeah, long years.
8 years ago. And think about what the cannabis industry was like 8 years ago in New York to where we are today.
Yeah. So back then there was actually just a medical program that tops had like 100,000 people, if that, at that point. And Lulu and I had both been working at cannabis companies in other states. So when we connected in New York, we were both living out here, and it was like there was nothing that really kind of had the true reflection of like New York's culture when we would go to an event. It was a lot of suits and finance bros, and like, you know, I'm a half black male. I was in my 20s. Lulu's a Chinese woman, and like we just have a different experience with cannabis in our community. And so when we would go to these events, it just felt like we weren't reflected.
Right.
And that was so early in New York's legalization process that, you know, we've kind of grown with the industry, and it's cool to see that like the industry doesn't have to be all finance bros. Like, this is cannabis. We're talking about smoking weed. Like, there's people of every type that want to be a part of this industry, and there's space for them. So that was kind of like our whole goal from the
Yeah,
beginning.
he would always say it's like all the conferences we went to were male, pale, and stale.
Right.
And that was pretty much a really true reflection, especially back in 2016. And when we met, we're both nerds. Like, our whole team are nerds.
I love that.
We're total nerds. So I'm a UX designer and researcher by trade. Jacoby's a mathematician. Peter on our team's a neuroscientist. Saki is an advocate, activist. Jason from our team architected the MRTA, the bill. He's a human rights lawyer. So you got a bunch of nerds who are really passionate about one thing. I think for all of us, what ties us together is being of service and having that mission behind everything that we do, and, you know, being very much experience driven has really allowed us to like attract people along the way that are also like that. And that's how we started. That's how, you know, On the Revel came to be in 2016. And we plugged away. And back then there was a lot of events in New York around around activism, around, you know, finance and investment, but there really wasn't people talking about what was happening on the ground. And that's where Jacoby came from Colorado. I came from the Washington market. And we just brought people that we fucked with. Can I say that?
That's fine. We'll bleep you.
You know, so people that we met in other markets that we really loved and, you know, had the same ethos. So we just started bringing them to New York, inviting them to speak to New Yorkers, because New Yorkers do business different.
Yeah,
It's
tell me
not the
about
same.
it.
You know, people here want to shake hands, look at you in the eye, and we just started seeding the people, the good people that we loved, to come into New York, and here we are.
Well, Lulu, let's start with you. What is your personal background with marijuana?
Oh, so my background's a little bit different. I'm probably one of the only Asian families where my family's okay with cannabis, because I'm an immigrant. We landed here in the 80s to Eugene, Oregon, and my parents had no idea what Americans were like, because, you know, we're from northern China where there's no exposure to the West. And the people that took us in to teach us about culture, to teach my parents English, who babysat me, they're all cannabis growers, and I'll call them distributors. So I grew up with aunties and uncles who were already, you know, I guess, quote unquote, legacy. So I've had, you know, influence of the plant since I was a kid, as soon as we landed in America.
Right.
And when I was curious about cannabis, my aunt actually went and got it for me. So I was 13. She was like, look, I want to know you're having good product. I want to know that you're going to be safe. So I would rather watch your ass than have you go out and do it with your friends. So she gave me 8 bong hits.
Wow, at 13?
I think she was
That's
trying
a lot
to
even for now at my grown age.
I think she was trying to do the, like, let's get you so sick that you don't like it, so you don't do it again. It kind of had the opposite effect. So it's been, you know, part of my life for a very long time. And in Eugene, Oregon, where it's very hippy dippy, there was a lot of use around using it as medicine, not just something social. So
Okay, so you didn't grow up necessarily with the stigma
no,
around it at all.
at all. So, and it's, I think, really the fact that my parents are hardcore Chinese, like communist dragons, are cool with cannabis is pretty fucking rare, and that just speaks to me how community can really help destigmatize, because then you have the families start being okay with it, and then all of a sudden the families within the community start being okay with it, and then the community starts having a different approach. So I'm a huge believer in being able to bring community together, just like this is why we were having you on our show, is you're such a huge philanthropist, and everything you do has been around community and expanding things, and that's why we're so stoked to finally have you.
I know. I'm excited that I'm able to be there. Jacoby, what's been your experience?
So I'm originally from Colorado, and like you said, I'm a nerd. I was a math major, and when I was kind of halfway through college, one of my friend's mom was the CEO of a cannabis company there. And so this was probably like 2013. This was pretty new. It was adult use, and it was an opportunity for me with an engineering degree to like actually get hands-on and like learn how the tables are designed to, optimize. And, I had been around cannabis. I was kind of a good kid in high school, but my family were foster parents. So we brought in all kinds of kids that were just going through a lot of things. And oftentimes you would see how just like getting in trouble with the law, a lot of times cannabis could just like put you in a tough situation,
Right.
and it propels. So I've been around that. I honestly didn't think too much about this as a career. And by working at that particular spot, it was called Mindful, I had found out around the same time that my uncle was sick with cancer, and he lived out here in New York. And the one thing that really helped him get through all his chemo was cannabis. So
That's the same thing with my uncle when he
Yeah.
had cancer. Okay.
yeah, exactly. And like you'll see a lot of people that are kind of anti-cannabis. Once you need it or you're desperate to try things,
Or
how
somebody in your
mindset shifts.
family.
Sick.
Yeah.
Completely. So it was starting to get not too sustainable for him to go get product on his own or like interact with other people. So I'll just say that I magically made sure that he had what he needed in New York. And then in 2016, he was in hospice. I came to take care of him in his final months, and I had no intention of being in New York. I was just like, yo, Uncle, I'll be here, whatever you need. And I didn't realize that going through that experience with him would bring me into New York and like build this whole community of people that were passionate about cannabis. And, he passed 3 months after I came, but it just, part of his legacy, I think of as kind of my own story. It kind of put me into this world where, that I met Lulu a couple months later, and, Peter probably like 6-7 months later. And this whole New York cannabis community really came together, and we've seen the beauty. So like I was working in the industry at that point. When I came to New York, met all these people, it was clear that all of the community that was out here was either legacy operators kind of doing it on the low, or people from the finance side kind of putting money into companies in California. But like we needed to show people like the legal game in New York if we were going to build like a sustainable new economy of like legal operators that looked like us.
That's important to me, just to hear about both of your backgrounds and experiences, because to your point, there are a lot of people getting into this business and strictly thinking about it from a financial point of view, where they may have been against it prior. They may not use it or really know anything about cannabis or any of the products around that, but they want to make some money. And there's a lot of people, like we stated, who were really affected by the laws, who really use it, but somehow they're not able to be included in the way that they should be. People's lives and families were affected by cannabis laws. And so just to hear both of your stories and to also understand why it's so important that something like On the Revel exists. When you guys started in 2016, how many people?
Well, I mean, the first one we were actually called.
It was really small, right?
We were called the Cannabis Tech Group because
that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, we're nerds. I told you.
We were both in tech, and we met because we both had tech platforms that we wanted to bring to life. And it was an easy lift for us to use tech to drop into cannabis because that's something that we were very comfortable with and saw how it could be helpful. So our first one, I think we had 12 speakers and I think 150 people showed up.
If
Okay.
that, yeah.
So it started off just amazing. We were just surprised
Right.
at how many friends from other markets were like, sure, we'll drop into New York and talk to the people. So
That first event, I remember, like we were. I think we both put in $500. We were at like a little co-working space.
and we got the spot for free because Jacoby was doing their IT.
Yeah, exactly. Like you
Lingo's
gotta make it work. You gotta make it work. And I remember a woman came up to me after that event, like crying, and she was a lawyer in the field. She'd been to many different like cannabis events, and she was like, "This is the type of information and community that we needed in New York." And I was like, "Whoa, Lulu, I think we're onto something. Like this is important." And so then we rebranded. We kind of really thought about it, put some energy behind it. But like, yeah, it was just like people were really receptive to this small little meetup group that we put together. And then we've kind of just grown it from there.
And Weed Maps is also a big sponsor for
yeah.
you guys
Yes, they've
too.
been
Weed
very
Maps has been
clutch.
around for quite some time. I remember that
Yeah,
super
yeah.
early on.
Yeah, they've been clutch. I mean, so we had kind of grown organically until about 2020. Like everybody else that had an event company, like we just shut down. It wasn't working. And, you know, we did some online stuff and, you know, that was all good. But we wanted to come out with a splash after, you know, the most intense part of the pandemic. So this would have been like early
2020?
2021. We had an event. And that's the first time that Weed Maps got involved. We kind of pitched them this idea, like we want to create like an experience that like really attracts these different communities that normally are not at the conference. And that's, you know, we want to bring in the DJs. We want to bring in like good food, like not just like
always the food, always
yeah,
the food.
you know,
Because you know you need to eat too. once you-
facts. And so they really believed in that. And, you know, I'm really grateful that we have partners like Weed Maps that it was kind of unproven what we were trying to do there. And they kind of took a chance on us. And then they've rocked with us for the last like 3 or 4 years now.
And we've also been watching a lot that's been happening as, you know, I think some people were cautious too because you didn't know what the law, how it was going to actually formulate from when they first said, okay, you can have these dispensaries, but they have to be legal. And I've seen in the past few months, so many shops that were not legal have been shut down.
Yeah.
How hard is that to get your license to even have a dispensary?
So there's a couple things to touch on based on what you said. Like all of those illegal shops that popped up, it was a result of the Office of Cannabis Management deciding that we're not going to criminalize people for being a part of the cannabis industry. Because then it's like, why do we legalize in the first place
Right.
if we're just going to start handcuffing people again? So the intent of that was great. As a result, there's a lot of people that took advantage of it. And they were like, oh, well, if you're not going to arrest me for doing this, I'm just going to pop up shop without any licensing.
Right.
So that made it really tough for the people that did it the right way, right? The people that went to do it the right way, it still is a
hard
long
process,
and
and it wasn't
grueling
cheap.
process.
It's
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
It's very involved.
Yes.
You know, I think the crux of how challenging it is all the paperwork that needs to happen. It's the compliance part. So like you could have a great brand, you could have a bunch of customers, but it's the part where you're reporting to the state and you have to have your insurance. It's like all the paperwork stuff that's I think the most challenging. And also stuff that we've experienced is, you know, getting, for example, our event this coming up is I went to see 17 different venues
Sheesh.
to be able to have a space that's like at least 60,000 square feet in New York City.
And okay with us as a cannabis
Yeah,
company.
and
Well,
once-
so that was hard to get people who would approve
correct.
Yeah.
this event
Correct.
even.
So
wow.
we're not even touching the plant. So we're ancillary. But imagine if someone who's trying to open up a store trying to convince, you know, a landlord to be cool with them.
Yeah, and the community board, you have to go in front of
Yeah.
the board and make sure that they're okay with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure like distance from a school, I'm sure all those
All of
things
that's
Yep.
the church,
apply
the
too.
school.
Yeah.
Yep. And you also have to remember, like, while you're trying to get your business set up, there's a completely new agency that's getting stood up for the government, right? So there's new staff that they need to hire. They're not fully staffed appropriately. They're trying to come up with the new rules based on what they learn from other states. And sometimes they get that part wrong,
Right.
Their
Things are
IT
changing all the
systems,
time.
yeah, they're not ready for the influx of people either. So you have like you have both your company you're trying to start and this agency in their very infant stages, both going at the same time. And so there's like all of these kind of miscues, these changes of information, lack of information that can be really frustrating.
Right.
And you kind of have to bake that into your business plan from the beginning.
Knowing that there's going to be some challenges. And
For sure.
It's a roller coaster.
For sure.
So what can we expect from, I know, day 1 and day 2 of this 2-day on the Revelry event. What's day 1?
So day 1 is our Buyers Club, which is our trade show. So this is our 4th one. This is where we do heavy vetting, so operators come through. So this is connecting the stores with the brands and the cultivators and the distributors and the processors. So like we put them all in the room and hopefully all the POs get signed and you get to, meet the people you've been talking to on the phone or emailing for months. So we have about 180 brands on day 1.
That's huge.
And about 250 retail stores.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Like, if you think about the way New York is structured, like half of the dispensaries are in the New York City area, but majority of the cultivators are upstate.
Right.
Right. So if you're a dispensary and you want to know what you're going to cover or what you're going to carry on your store, you got to go all the way upstate. And if you're lucky, you're going to see 3 or 4 farms in one day. That's an expensive trip. You're not at your store operating. And then same thing for the cultivators and the brands that are upstate. And don't get me wrong, some are downstate or in Long Island, but for a lot of them, they got to come down to the city and they're trying to hit everybody rapid fire, but they only have a little bit of time. So what we've been able to do is kind of merge these two worlds, right? All of the retailers can be in one spot. You can check out majority of the operating brands right now. And like Lulu said, our goal is for you to sign POs, get a contract so you know that those people are going to be carried on your shelves as soon as you open.
It's like the Magic Convention was for fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we've created a space where if you want to handle business in cannabis New York, you come to our event.
Right.
And it's become almost like a debutante's ball in a lot of ways because we've got new brands, new products, new companies, and they're all coming to debut. And that's one of the most beautiful things to see because people, your audience is listening to all the news out there, seeing New York it's shitty, nothing's working, but we get to see firsthand, there's a really beautiful thing happening.
Right.
It's not easy, but no one's giving and uplifting and highlighting all of the operators that are working their ass off to make this happen, and we get to host them. And
they're vetted out, which is great, too, because I think that's important to know. I got to make sure, because I feel like everybody has a brand. Everybody's trying to, but to go someplace where this has already been, I know if you're here, you're credible. I know you've been vetted out.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other people that can co-sign, that have worked with you there. So it's a great networking opportunity, too.
I love the feedback that we've gotten is that 9 out of 10 people are exactly who I need to talk to.
Okay.
When you think about it, you go to so many trade shows or conferences, you kiss a lot of frogs to find the right person. Because we vet them, which is stressful and it's so annoying for us to do it. But when you get there, you're actually meeting the people that you were supposed to meet. They're
do you guys sample a lot of stuff? Or
of course. We have. look at Peter smiling over here. We got the sample bag go around for the On the Revel team as our thank you. And
well, if you need me ever, to just
we need you to try some products. Yeah.
All right, and then day 2.
Yeah.
Day 2 is festival. So one of the things that I love about New York is I always say this is an epicenter of culture. So fashion, music, food, art, everything. And a lot of my friends in those worlds aren't always called into some of the existing cannabis events because it's it doesn't resonate with them. So for us, we really we're seeding this concept of this festival. We've done a couple block parties, which we've tried to get you to speak at multiple times, but you've been busy. So this one we really are doing one to address to expand the addressable consumer market, which is increasing our consumers who might be not really heads, but they're curious. So that's where you're coming to speak. We have music, we have food.
Joey Badass.
Yeah.
My Brooklyn brother, Joey Badass, is going to be performing.
So it's our public day. So people who are interested in cannabis, consumers of cannabis, wanting to learn about how to enter the cannabis market as an entrepreneur or someone that wants to work in the field, come through. We've got beautiful set of speakers. You're our keynote speaker. And then Joey Badass, Odalis.
But, I mean, if you think about the way the legal cannabis industry is in New York right now, technically a brand can't pop up at a dispensary. So, you'll see this at, liquor stores and someone's tasting wine, you can try it. And then the consumer gets to know about you in a way that maybe they wouldn't have if you were just, a bottle on the shelf.
Right.
That's a challenge that a lot of the brands have out here. And then another challenge is if you're a consumer and you go to a dispensary, it's pretty overwhelming. There's
It
like a
is.
bunch of products of brands you've never heard of with all these colors, and
That
it's
is
like
so true.
it's
'Cause,
yeah.
And but I really, that's when I do really lean on the whoever's working there.
Yeah, the bud tenders.
Right, the bud tenders are so
Yeah.
important because they're really great at, or should be, at being able to give you direction on what it is that,
Yeah.
because sometimes you want to be able to get some products so you can stay awake and clean the house.
Yep.
Sometimes you
Facts.
want something that's going to help you go to sleep at night, or to get on a flight and be like, I just want to knock out on this flight and be relaxed. I want to have to, I don't want to have my mind racing and thinking about all these different things.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll give you some products that are like, I never even would have thought to try this. There's like these sodas that I've been drinking that
Yep.
have THC that are amazing.
Yeah.
And for my friends who maybe don't necessarily drink and don't necessarily smoke, they'll do that.
Yeah.
And it's a nice
Beverages are the highest growing category.
It feels
because
like
we're
it.
used to it, like the alcohol, coffee, like that's how we're used to, kind of bringing in different like conscious changing.
It's so
substances.
amazing to me to see something that was so stigmatized, that was criminalized, that now those very same people are like, how can I invest in this business?
Yeah.
And I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Even, with mushrooms. Mushrooms used to be something that people would look at you so crazy, like, you did what? Oh my God, you're a druggie.
Yeah,
and
of
now everybody's like, do you have some microdose? I microdose shrooms all the time. It's just the funniest thing to
Yeah.
see how stuff is changing.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned the bud tenders. They're welcome on Saturday. We want them to come through. The attendees that are just consumers.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of day 2 is for the attendees to come through and take their time learning about all the products there. So you're not like, when you go in the dispensary and you're overwhelmed,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you can really get to know the people behind this. Like, you might see a package on the shelf. This is a small farmer. They're really hustling to try to make these, inventory runs all the time. Or these big brands that have all of this cool, flashy stuff. Like, maybe that's for you, maybe it's not. But the fact that you have an opportunity to come learn, educate, you can try product there. We're working with people, travel agency and Doobie. They're our retail and delivery partners. So you can see a brand you like and then, put it in the app and we'll deliver it to you at the event. So you can try stuff there. Yeah.
So there's going to be 176 brands there.
I feel like this would be a really peaceful event too. 'Cause we're all gonna be nice and chill.
It's amazing. Like, versus like alcohol, you see everybody's just happy. It's just all love. Like, it's great.
I always feel like this is also an experience that, much like music and sports brings people together, this brings all different ages, all different ethnicities, like everybody. It helps people really bond with
It's
each
like
other.
a through line to all of these other industries. Like, we talked about fashion, sports, like you're saying, like cannabis is intersecting in all of these little worlds, and it's just kind of been on the low for decades. And really in the last like 10 years, everybody's starting to kind of bring it out. It's coming to light. Like, we have one panel that's all former athletes, played in the NFL, WNBA, like representing that. It's always been happening. It's just always on the low.
Right.
And so now we can kind of bring all those cultures together because we have this unified, cannabis love.
And I've watched that progress too, from, you're getting tested, you can't do anything, you can't have any weed. But then all of a sudden it turned into, well, when you're retired,
Yeah.
it's okay. And people are investing in businesses. You just can't do it if you're active because it's frowned upon. Kids are watching.
Yeah.
But now it's turned into more like I feel like it's just okay now.
If you look at the cannabis advocates that are athletes, most of them are retired.
Right.
Right? It's like once they're kind of off that contract, you realize that they're ready to talk about anything. But it's the ones still on their contract. They're like, yeah.
But I feel like it's going to start to
Yeah.
change a little, so.
They're getting
And
more
I
and
think
more
it's really
comfortable.
interesting too that a lot of kids are teaching their parents about cannabis too,
That's so
and
true.
grandparents. So it's really to see like the families that are having conversations. And and because you're part Chinese, you know how difficult it is to have anything move within our culture. But then all of a sudden, like grandpa, grandma, auntie, and uncle are open to it because pain relief, arthritis, all of that. The Tiger Balm. I think somebody should make Tiger Balm.
Oh my
with
gosh,
THC,
they just
right?
gave me Tiger Balm last week.
Yeah.
That's like our cure all for everything.
Yes.
Like, here's a little Tiger Balm. Just make sure you use that. That is a great idea.
And then as soon as the grandparents are cool with it, it just trickles down into the rest
And I
of the
feel like they
family.
don't talk about it necessarily, though. It's just kind of like my brother. So my brother, for the longest, if anybody who knows my brother, he's the person that he will like actually make stuff. Like he's always made like Rice Krispie treats and his own Jolly Ranchers and done everything like organic cookies, whatever. He can make anything. And so with my family, he'll just bring stuff over. And like my uncle who had cancer, they would be like, "Where's your brother?" Because
Yeah.
you know we need him. And now everybody's
Exactly.
you know, and it's fine, but they don't necessarily talk about it.
It's
They'll
that
just be
one
like,
spark that
yeah.
starts to make it like kind of okay, but
Oh
still
my
the
gosh,
love.
my cousin got married, and at the wedding, it was like being handed out. Like,
I love that.
yeah, it
I
was just
love
the
that.
funniest thing. So it is nice to see the progress that's come, and it's a shame to see so many people have suffered though
Yeah.
because of what the law used to be. But I do really want to see those same people be able to participate. I know that was allegedly the plan, so let's just make sure that does happen.
I think that it's one of the most important things
Yeah.
when it comes to legalizing cannabis, that like first and foremost, it's like for a social justice reason. Like people shouldn't be getting locked up over this.
Right.
And if like that's the foundational thing, as well as the fact that it's a medicine, then we can worry about making money off it.
Yeah.
Like that should come second, third, right? The problem, as we see it from the markets that we worked in, it became an economic thing immediately.
Yes.
And then, oh, you know what? There's not many black people in here. Let's start a little program, you know,
Yeah.
5 years after
Tell them
it's
they
been
have
legalized.
to have 5% of the
Exactly. And that's such a hard
little-
hill to climb at that point. So the way it was legalized in New York, the MRTA, like we said, one of our team members kind of helped write it, Jason Starr. And it was kind of putting people first. And so you'll see that the first round of licenses for retail, they call them card licenses. They've gone through a lot of struggles too. Like I said earlier, like it wasn't perfect, but we have more black and brown dispensaries in New York than all of the other states combined.
Wow.
So
That's
like
good to hear.
it's been a challenge, and in the media you see that like, you know, the program is failing, there's all these legal shops, but like we also have done some really, really good things, and there was automatic expungement for like nonviolent cannabis offenses. And so like we're making like really positive strides in New York cannabis. And I feel like if we're gonna have our events and like glorify like all the cannabis community, it's still important that we include all the people that built the demand for this product that people are making money off of. So we have that in our panels. We have that included in every part
And
of
I
our
think
programming.
the other part that's really beautiful about what we've done in New York is that now it's set a standard for any other market that comes online. It's going to be written into their initial drafts as well. So
Hopefully.
well, we
They
have
should.
some-
It should be.
It should be.
They have a precedent.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can
we,
follow.
we have some friends that are helping write for some of the upcoming markets, and that's like they're texting like, what needs to be included? Who should we talk to? Like this is really important. So it's nice to know that like you said, it's set a precedent for future markets.
And for people who aren't here, you guys also do have an online community. So I want to make sure that anybody who can't make it this weekend for whatever reason, they can still participate and know what's going on with Dope People Online.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, from the pandemic, we kind of had to pivot to doing a lot of things online, and we have Peter in the room, our head of content and community. And, one of our core things is like democratizing all the information. So if you want to start a dispensary, if you want to, go legit from being an illegal underground cultivator to going, above board, all the information, all of our speakers, it's free. We put it all online. And like, we have people in our community, they really have like looked at everything. They've learned all that they can from our content. And then, we're accessible. We try to make sure that like we hit us on Instagram, whatever. If we can help you, we're sending stuff your way.
Yeah, all of our past speakers are all on YouTube.
You know what I like to? I saw you guys responding. Somebody was like, "I'd love to open up," and you guys, sorry, there's nothing. Like y'all really be responding.
Yeah, that's
people.
Peter.
And there's also a Revelry Buyers Club directory too. So I want to make sure people know about that as well.
Oh, that's the gold.
So that's been called the Bible because it's the most concentrated information of contact information of all of our operators in New York.
So
there's no directory of database as of yet because everything's kind of like been piecemealed. Sometimes you find an OCM. Some people don't really want their information out there because you're going to get spammed with all of these things, right? So it speaks a lot that people have trusted us to keep this information specifically for our operators. So the directory is something that you get if you're an exhibitor and if you're a retailer.
Okay.
And that is purposely for them to do business and make it easy for them to do business.
All right. Well, you guys, thank y'all so much.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
really excited to be there this weekend, and a lot of people are excited that I will be there this weekend. So
we can't wait to have you there.
You know, this is something that I feel like for so long, since I was in high school and everything, that it's been like a dirty little secret that, you know, so it's nice to see how far we've come. I know we still have a lot left to do, but thank you for the work that you guys have been doing and trying to make sure that this is something that can be more fair and more equitable for people and to bring people together. And so the inclusivity is one of the most important parts of what it is that we do, and to do it the right way. You know, to go from, like you said, from going from being like maybe one of these illegal shops to now being able to operate in the right way. Because there are people who have been doing this for so long that deserve the opportunity because they're in it, you know?
Yeah. I'm really grateful to be here on your show. Like, you've been an amazing advocate just for all the things that you do in the community. And like, you're the exact type of people that we want to have on our stage because it shows the precedence of like the character of the people that we want to be in this industry. So we're really honored for you to be participating.
And how can people get tickets if they still haven't gotten them and they want to come out?
Yeah, to get tickets, go to revelryny.com. You're going to want to get the Cannabis Festival tickets.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Saturday.
We did a code, right?
Oh, yeah. We got,
we did a code.
We got a code. We got a
Okay,
code.
what's the code?
Way up 20 for 20% off on the Cannabis Festival
Oh,
tickets.
I like that.
Yeah,
See, we're always servicing people.
Exactly.
Way up 20 is the code.
Way up 20.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to it. And we got to keep this conversation going. So we'll keep it, you know, next time. Every time something happens, I'd love to be able to tap in.
Love it. Appreciate you.
All right. It's way up.
Way up.